Uh, okay. Okay. And there's an
Hare
S.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
This is Sushil.
Yes. Tell me a little about yourself.
I am from India, Prabhuji. Hyderabad.
Where in India?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Which place in India?
Hyderabad in Telangana state.
Okay, I know that place. I haven't been there. I used to live in India, the most progressive, modern, least political, least caste conscious, best run state with the most honest government in all of India. Can any of you guess which state I lived in? I was a high school teacher in that state. Can any
Maybe
of you?
Bihar, Prabhuji.
It was Bihar. Yes. Can any of you think of a state that's better than Bihar? I once said that at a program and somebody raises their hand, I'm a Bihari. I said, oops, okay. But Bihari is kind of like the joke of India. And Pushpanjali, tell me about yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. I am Rathatra Prabhu's wife.
Oh, okay. So you're the better half.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, we understand that. Very good. Okay. What do you do for a living, Pushpanjali?
Oklahoma City.
Oh, you're in Oklahoma City. Okay.
Yes, I am.
And Chaitanya Polaki?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat
Yes.
Pranam. I'm currently at Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. And what do you do for a living?
I work in a medical device company.
Oh, okay, good. What part of India are you from?
I'm from Thane, Maharashtra, but my origin is from Srikakulam, Andhra. It's called Plaza.
Got it. Okay, well, welcome.
Hare
Welcome. Now, who did I miss? Because the pictures keep changing orders. Lalit Prashad. Tell me a little about yourself, Lalit Prashad. Prabhu.
Thank you. I'm going to call you Maharaj because you are done tremendous service for Srila Prabhupada. Anyway, I'm from Bogota, Colombia, and I was also initiated by Srila Prabhupada June 2nd, 1972 in Mexico City. I was picked as a interpreter translator for Hanuman Swami.
Sure.
In opening up Central and South America. We were the first ISKCON party to touch the countries, in Central and South America. I left ISKCON in 1977. After Srila Prabhupada passed, I was in Hawaii at the time, and I went back to school. I got an engineering degree in industrial engineering, and basically became a carby and made some money, lived very comfortably. My ex-wife is a high-level executive for Johnson & Johnson. She works for the board of directors. So we had quite very nice accommodations. Anyway, I'm divorced, and now I'm married again, and my second wife is a devotee, and we relish Krishna consciousness. We sort of have a cold, and we were not able to attend the festivities, the program tonight. We know BJ. What is the BJ Govind? He's the president of our center here in Cincinnati. Truly a wonderful man. He's got a big heart.
He is very wonderful. I know him.
He's one of those devotees that, just like Apurva, who was the one who attracted me to Krishna consciousness in Brooklyn back at 439 Henry Street.
I know Henry Street so well.
With a big heart, and it's kind of like Varsana Swami said, because he was also influenced by Apurva. I said, what attracted you to ISKCON? He says, Apurva. And I said, yeah, me too. And I said, what was it about him? He said, Varsana Swami says, I wanted what he had. So
Salad dressing. He's famous for his salad dressing.
yeah, okay. So I guess so so many years, and currently I'm every day we have a class with a Kamalini and Apurva on Srimad Bhagavatam from 5:30 to 6:30. And then after that, we have a class with Advaita Maharaj. So my wife and I are very, we keep our time pretty much around ISKCON Krishna conscience activities, thanks to the Zoom and just everything that, as a result of COVID, basically. But in any case, it's an honor to allow you to, hear my story, and we're looking forward to hearing your pastimes in ISKCON. Thank you.
Well, and it's an honor to meet you, and my respects to Vijay Govinda. We served together, and he's a wonderful gentleman and a brilliant accountant. So I'm very pleased to meet you. My son goes to Bogota every 2 weeks, so he always wants me to go with him. Of course, the reason he goes is a little different. He's a federal narcotics agent. But anyway.
Yes, Bogota, I think you'll enjoy it. There's a very, very large community of ISKCON, not ISKCON devotees, but Hare Krishnas. Actually, there are ISKCON devotees, but there's something like 23 farms in Colombia that are Hare Krishna farms. And they're run by a former renegade Swami of Srila Prabhupada. But
I know him very well.
Okay, anyway,
Okay.
So that's enough. But Bogota is heavily, no need of air conditioning or heating systems. It's truly an amazing place.
It's a high elevation. Well, I'm very happy to meet you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody I missed? Because the pictures jump around a little bit on the screen as people speak. Is there anybody I missed? I wanted to see who's here. There's somebody named N. Ooh, that's mysterious. Who is N?
Neha Mataji,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. My name is Neha. I am from Wichita, Kansas, and I am 63 years old, and I am a housewife.
Oh, well, that's a noble profession indeed. And what part of India are you from?
I'm from Gujarat. I'm Gujarati.
Okay, the land of the Patels.
Yes.
Yeah. I was in Oklahoma City. I have very close friends there. They're Patels, and they own motels. And we can introduce you to them. They're very, very nice people. And their father is a devotee and a close friend of mine. And then their couples are there, and their daughter was getting married, and I had to go give the blessings. So the Mr. Patel was present, the Indian Hotel Owners of America.
Okay.
So we had 1,500 people come to the convention center for the wedding. And every last one of them was named Patel.
Oh, yeah.
So when I went to give the blessing to the bride and groom, I said, first, I have to make an important announcement. And I said, Mr. Patel, you left your car lights on. But some of them got the joke, some didn't. But I thought it was pretty funny. Okay, so I'm very pleased to meet you. I like knowing a little bit who I'm talking to and what interests them. And again, last time I'll say it, but if anybody likes, they can turn on their camera so we can see each other. And this way, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can make faces at me. I have a lot of service in ISKCON. I've done anything you could think of over the years. There's a saying in America, the American Navy advertises, join the Navy and see the world. But it turns out that you join ISKCON, you see the world also. We serve everywhere and do everything. And now that COVID has occurred, I'm visiting Singapore, Australia, Africa, China, Russia, all these places I get to speak in that I never would. And I don't even have any jet lag. So COVID's been a curse and a blessing. This is the blessing side. Now, I want to speak to what interests you. One thing I can speak on is conflict resolution. I'm a certified mediator and the co-director of ISKCON Resolve. We do the conflict resolution ISKCON. Second, I am, can you turn on for me screen share?
Just
Host
give
it.
me a second,
Yeah.
Prabhuji. Yes.
Or you can click on my picture and make me co-host and I can turn it on.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, it's still not on, but when you get it on, I run the Bhaktivedanta Institute.
It's on, Prabhuji.
And I've had some incredible adventures with Prabhupada. So I will speak on whatever interests you. I have some slides and pictures and various things all queued up, but I want to speak on the topics that interest you. So you can tell me, when I spoke to Rath Yatra ahead of time, I said, well, these are three things that I've been speaking on recently, other than, of course, Gita verses and all of that. And I said, I will be prepared to speak on any of these topics that you like. So does anybody have any questions for me to begin? Any questions or any topic that interests any of you?
Prabhuji, please go ahead. I doubt, but this is a good question to invite people to speak. If somebody speaks, fine. Otherwise, you know how this world is and how Prabhupada was dealing. We would like to hear about Prabhupada, what's way of conflict resolution, how you adopt his principles in conflict resolution, so that it would helpful for us tomorrow. As I told you in the beginning, the moment you step out of your room, the world is full of conflict, duplicity, whatnot. So
It's Kali Yuga, so there is conflict between husband and wife, between father and son, and mother and daughter, and let alone wife and mother-in-law, and all of these. Between neighbors, I did a mediation recently at another ISKCON center, and there are two gentlemen, they work at the same company, they live next door to each other, and they won't speak to each other. And this is a symptom of Kali Yuga. So about 20 years ago, 19 years ago, ISKCON was thinking about it. Can we be better than others? Prabhupada said, how much you love me is by how well you work together. But we fight and struggle. And Prabhupada once said, the only thing that can stop the movement is us. Because we have met the enemy, and it is clearly us. We decided to form ISKCON Resolve. And ISKCON Resolve says we will resolve our conflicts internally, confidentially, with a third-party help. I will see if I have screen share. I do. I'll show you very briefly. I have a long PowerPoint Raja Bihari prepared, but I will give you the short version of what ISKCON Resolve is. Okay. Oops, see if you can, 1 moment here. And okay, and you can see that now, I think. So ISKCON Resolve is to help devotees become more Krishna conscious, bring others to Krishna. And why would we want to be concerned with this? Well, our leaders spend too much time in conflict. And when we point out bad qualities to each other, we actually lose our Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And we tend to, if we're in management, advice I give to people is this: when we're in management, anytime you have to criticize someone, first say several nice things about them. Let's say somebody is doing their service poorly. They're making flower garland. They're not doing it well. You say, Prabhu, you have such a good service attitude. And when you chant japa, you're so clear in your pronunciation, inspires me. And you're always on time. And I appreciate that about you. Now, if you don't mind a little constructive criticism, your garlands are made in the wrong order, and therefore the flowers don't look nice. And almost anyone will accept such criticism. But if I would walk up, your garlands are terrible. What are you, some kind of jerk or idiot? Then you can see how the reaction varies. Now, Srila Prabhupada said, the only thing that can hurt ISKCON from succeeding is within. So we want to make conflict less. One way to do that is to look at the causes of conflict. Now, what causes a conflict? Some is information. They're very easy to resolve. I don't know a particular piece of information. Every time I go to Mangalarti, I can't get into the temple because I knock and no one answers. Well, if I just had the code to the door, I could get in. It's a piece of information, very easy to resolve. When we get to values, it's very difficult because we have different value systems. Like in America, the Republicans and Democrats have hugely different value systems. So I'm not going to go into detail about this here. We'll skip ahead a little bit. Now, values we get from Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, life experiences, culture, but each of us may be surprised. When our values are threatened, it affects our very identity. And people get very upset. Now, some of you can think of where your values were. For example, let's say you value integrity and you find that somebody is stealing. And somebody is stealing. This is going to, what somebody else is thinking, I'm not really stealing, I'm just borrowing. So there are different sets of values. And they're very difficult to resolve. People think that if we resolve a conflict, sometimes people think I'll have to lose my identity. Our point is no, you just have to give up your false ego. You have to realize, you have to understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, and they have to understand what it's like to be in your shoes. The Christian saint, Saint Francis, said it so well. If you want to be understood, then you must understand. These are examples, but I'm not going to spend your time on that. How should ISKCON leaders react to conflict? We try to find out why there's a conflict. Not necessarily to resolve it, but why do you feel so strong about it? We'll give the example of an orange. Let's say we have one orange and both people want the orange. Now, one solution is cut it in half, but that might not work because we don't know why they want the orange. If we find out that somebody wants to bake a cake, all they need is the orange peel, and they need a whole orange to do that. And if somebody wants to juice because they have a cold, they need a whole cup of juice. So once we know why, then it's very easy to solve that conflict. Who gets the orange? Somebody gets the peel, somebody gets the pulp. So that's an example by asking why we get to the root of conflict. So when we're dealing with conflict, as a mediator, I try to have a non-anxious presence. I listen to what people say, but I don't get involved. I just try to listen and let them know I understand, but I'm not anxious about it. Now, I'm going to skip some of this here. ISKCON's approach to conflict. One, we talk things out among each other. Two, that's number 3 actually on here on the left. In the middle, a neutral third party. And finally, at the very bottom, legislation. Top down. Most religions work top down. Prabhupada wanted a more democratic kind of ISKCON, though we have GBC and gurus and management. We do have top down. We also try to make it very level management. So if there's problems, we can negotiate and mediate. If that doesn't work, we might ask the third party to make a decision, arbitrate. And if that doesn't work, we have to escalate it to the highest authority. So this is decreasing power of disputants. Those involved in the dispute on the left side of the screen have complete power, and on the right side, they're giving their power to someone else. Sometimes I mediate in court because I'm a professional mediator. And one party will say to me, I don't want to mediate. I want to go in front of the judge because I'm right. And I say to them, what do you call a judge with an IQ of 60? And they look at me with the strangest look. And then I remind them, yes, a judge with a law, but what do you call a lawyer with an IQ of 60? And the answer is, Your Honor. It's not that a judge is necessarily smarter. So better you mediate where you can control your own destiny. 3 ways to deal with the problem. Interest. We try to find out what each party's interests are. Why are you here? Rights. Well, this is not right. That's wrong. Let a judge weigh the evidence and decide. And finally, power. I'm the boss. I make the decision. So in ISKCON, that might be the GBC. In a temple, it might be a president. But we want to do the first way if possible, discussing the matter. Why do we feel this way? Resort to power is always a last resort. So, so the pros of the ISKCON system, that is top-down management. It's quick, it's practical, but when leaders take decisions, some won't like it. And people will get discouraged, and we're a voluntary organization. So it creates a huge amount of time wasted in conflict. In arbitration, it's appropriate in some cases, but still the parties are not a participant in the solution. So you have a winner and loser. That's not good for the sake of the society. The third system is ISKCON Resolve. Here, we not only resolve the conflict, we resolve the relationship. Devotees feel heard. They get to feel empowered. They get to feel, as Krishna in the Gita is trying to empower Arjuna to think for himself. Even the last verse of the Gita says, okay, I've explained it all to you. Now do what you want. We're trying to empower devotees. Prabhupada explains a devotee is like somebody taking pilot training. Now, I used to be a pilot, so I'm very familiar with this. In pilot training, you fly with a co-pilot. Something goes wrong, the trainer is right there. There's two controls, but eventually you have to solo on your own. Prabhupada describes that in a purport. Similarly, if we can resolve conflict by being empowered, we'll be like that pilot soloing. We'll be able to do things on our own and soar to great heights. And that was Prabhupada's method. So the cons, sometimes some conflicts must be resolved top down. Some things are managerial entirely. They're not made for conflict resolution. And we cannot replace the authority structure Prabhupada gave us. So in ISKCON, we have ombudsmen. Ombudsmen are conflict resolvers who have many tools. They can mediate, they can discuss, they can connect. Ombudsmen are neutral. I'm a certified ombudsman myself. We're confidential. We never reveal anything unless somebody says, I'm going to kill somebody or something like that, but otherwise completely confidential. And finally, we're independent. Even though we are chartered by the GBC, we act independently. And I'm going to skip this a little bit here. So results to date. We are the first religious organization in the world to take up alternative dispute resolution, ADR, on a global basis. We've trained the Anglican Church, the Catholic Church, judges and lawyers in the high courts of India, done many mediation, hundreds, maybe 1,000 by now. This is a few years old. Visitors to our ombudsman. We started an arbitration system. So ISKCON is way ahead of the curve in conflict resolution. How do we prevent conflict? Listen. Remember, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So if we use that ratio, we'll avoid most conflicts. Anybody who's been married knows that is the truth. And we avoid gossip, Gramya Gita, and we look for, as I said in the very beginning, we look for the good in others. So how do we prevent conflict? Chant attentively. With that, I want to give you an introduction to ISKCON conflict resolution. Are there any questions on this? Yeah. Okay.
Prabhuji, there is, so the basic question is, we are not, no. Anyway, solution is great. Everything will be solved if you are chanting properly, listening to our Guru Maharaj. So we are on the very grassroots level. We are trying to be devotee, neophytes. We do not have no visibility, or we don't get involved in the stage you are dealing with, the very top level where really things happens. So in our level, somebody thinks, oh, I don't have power, or I need to involve in this, or I was not giving, small things. People misunderstand the things. So how do you suggest? Anyway, bottom line is chanting. If we are chanting, we have faith in Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj's word, and we have faith on Krishna. Everything gets resolved, and we do not have that much direct access to talk to our Maharaj. But if we listen lectures, obviously, yes, we'll get answers. So in very grassroots level, this is a small, petty things people misunderstand. They try to demand something, or they have some expectation that is not met. And most of the time, misunderstanding is some of the devotees, we are in a stage, we listen from somewhere, we don't have complete picture, we try to give the judgment, we become judgmental. Again, this is my observation, or it is applicable to me as well. So how do you deal with those things in our level, Prabhuji? If you can give some guidance, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, this is a very good question you asked, Rathayatra. Everything I said applies at every level, be it a husband and wife, brothers, sisters, to the highest level of management. So first thing is, we have to be humble in our dealings with each other. At the same time, we don't tolerate unnecessary criticism. I found when we were reforming the Bhaktivedanta Institute, there was one person coming where everything we did, he would criticize. Everything. And he had some academic credentials, but he didn't even know what we were doing, but he'd come and criticize everything. And people were getting very discouraged. So what did I do? So I said, let's go and have lunch together. We have in Gainesville Krishna lunch. We serve 1,000 plates of lunch every day on campus, doing this for 50 years. So a huge program. So I said, let's go to Krishna lunch together. So we went. And I said, you're a smart person. I complimented him. You sing beautiful bhajans. I like your bhajans. He said, thank you. He said, yet you disagree with everything we do every day. And it's very discouraging to us. Maybe you're in the wrong Sangha. Because if all you're coming is criticizing, like Ramachandra Kant in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, maybe you're not comfortable here and you should have a different Sangha. Because if you criticize, it's going to hurt your own spiritual life. I don't want to see it hurt. So he stopped coming. But I was very nice to him. And I had to do that twice. I don't like doing that, but I had to do it. Because some people just are like that. So if you have a situation that you need a third party, that's what ISKCON Resolve is for. You go to ISKCON Resolve, I'll put in the chat.org, and you send a message there. And we have trained mediators or trained ombudsmen who will come and help. And even little disputes can be very, very disruptive. Somebody comes, sometimes I see we have culture clashes. I am not American. None of you are Indian. But I've seen sometimes the South Indian doesn't like the North Indian, and the Bengali doesn't like the Gujarati, and both of them don't like the Maharashtrians, and it goes on like that. That's called bodily concept of life. It's not very useful. So we have to every day rise above it. Just like every one of you, you're from India, I think almost except Lalit Prasad's from South America. So everybody from India, I know, even the poorest person in India takes a shower every day. When I was lived in a village, even the very poorest person would go by the well, put on their lungi, pump the water and pour it over their head. Everyone tried to shower every day. It was just natural. In America, some people shower once a month if they need it or not. What can we do? We have that issue. So that's what spiritual life is like. If you must every day shower, every day we have to, when we wake up in the morning, why do we say prayers when we wake up? Because we're reconnecting with our spiritual self. We've been in that slumber and now we're reconnecting. So every morning when I get up, I offer some prayers. This is what we must do. We must do this. And we must shower every day, because if we don't shower every day, and I don't mean just with water, but I mean shower by cleaning our heart. If we don't do that every day, it gets dirty very quickly. When it gets dirty, what is the symptom? The symptom is envy. Oh, he has more of that than I do. Oh, that is very bad. That's envy. Now, Krishna says in the Gita, he says, Arjuna, I'm telling you this most confidential of all secrets, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam, the king of all knowledge and the most confidential of all knowledge. I'm telling you this. Why? Because you are not envious. So we have to fight our envy. If I felt envy of Rath Yatra, what would I do? Well, if I feel envious of him, the first thing I do is go and serve him. That's how you get rid of envy. If I'm envious of someone, I'd offer them service, give them some prasadam, do something for them. And you'll find the envy dissipates very, very quickly. So these little conflicts, even in a small congregation, will happen. So the first thing you do is talk about it. And if that doesn't work, you bring someone else in to help. If that doesn't work, then we have to brainstorm what to do. But we have to deal with conflict. If we run from it, it's like a lump under a rug. Sometimes there's a bump in a rug and you press it down, you say, oh, I got rid of it. But then it pops up somewhere else. And it's like whack-a-mole. You keep pressing it, but there's a game like that, whack-a-mole. You keep pressing it and it keeps popping up somewhere else. So eventually we have to deal with the cause of it. And we learned that in ISKCON 20 years ago, and it's made a dramatic improvement in ISKCON. There's still conflict. We're human and it's Kali Yuga. But at least we have ways to deal with it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, thank you so much. It helps, Prabhuji. So unless anybody has questions, Prabhuji will go to another topic. We are left with a few more minutes. So
yeah, not much time left, but conflict resolution is a good one. I also, let me show you a picture. Now, guess which one's me? This is 1977 Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. Guess which one's me? Can anyone guess?
What's your height?
Front line, extreme right, facing me.
Say again?
Front line, right side person.
Nope, but that's close. It's a good friend of mine.
You are in the center, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I'm in the center. These are the ISKCON'S 5 scientists at the first, at the conference, the first international conference, Prabhupada named it, of life comes from life. And we had the science conference in Vrindavan, India. And there were 5 of us, and big scientists came. And every night, Prabhupada would call us into his room. He was 1 month before he passed on, so he was too sick to get out of bed for anything. He couldn't get out of bed, period. But he'd call us to his room. And he would say, so what are your Sankirtan scores? What does that mean? He wanted to know what our arguments were and what their arguments were, because we had some very famous scientists coming. And we're debating, does life come from matter or does life come from life? In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, Krishna and Balaram are the original, it says here, dull matter cannot create anything. The material energy produces a creation by the power of the Supreme Person. Iron itself has no power to burn, but when iron is placed in fire, it is empowered to burn. So it's saying that the source of our matter is nothing. Like when someone dies, let's say our relative dies and we go hug their body. Oh, where are you? Oh, where are you? Oh, Mohan, what happened to you? What happened to you? Where are you? But the body is there, but Mohan's gone because the body is different than Mohan. So in that way, we had this conference, and Prabhupada would call us in the room, and we were arguing that life doesn't come from matter, and the other side was arguing it does. So he wanted to know what our arguments were. But Prabhupada's vision was very weak at that time, because he was, health was very precarious. So he couldn't see so well. So we'd walk in the room, Tamal Krishna Maharaj goes, "Oh, Prabhupada, your scientists are here," and they're wearing suits and ties. So Prabhupada said, "Get them chairs." So Srup Damodar Maharaj, the late sannyasi, he was our leader. He said, "Oh, Prabhupada, we're your disciples. We sit on the floor." Prabhupada said, "No, you're in your suit and tie. You must sit in a chair." So I think 3 of us had to sit on one chair because there weren't enough chairs. And but we want to please Prabhupada. And then a few years ago, 2 years ago, we tried to do another conference on life comes from life called Consciousness in Science. And Prabhupada, before the Life Come From Life Conference 77, he called for all ISKCON scientists to get together. So, and when he called for all of us to get together, this was it. And now there's Srup Damodar and Sadaputta and Madhava and Gyana and me. Then a few years ago, we called for all the ISKCON scientists to get together, and we had a conference in Gainesville with some very famous outside speakers. And here's how many devotees came. And most of them are PhDs. So you can, and there's so many more have come since. You can recognize some. Rabindra Sarup Prabhu is there in the front. I'm there with my mouth open trying to catch a fly. I don't know what that's about. But anyway, then recently we got a new headquarters for the Bhaktivedanta Institute that was donated to us. I'll show it to you. This used to be the home of the president for the University of Florida. Now it's ours. We're remodeling it, and we have a 8,000 book library. A lot of science books, but mostly books on Vaishnavism and world religions. And it's many rare books. Several professors understood what we're doing, like it, and donated their libraries to us. So these are some of the things our Bhaktivedanta Institute's doing. If any of you are scientists and want to work with us, you can always write me. I'll put my email address in the chat. There it is. I also will put the latest copy of the Bhaktivedanta Institute newsletter. I'll add that to the chat. Let's see. Just one moment. Well, it's not cooperating. We'll have it here in a minute. Lalit Prasad, Prabhu, you have a question.
Yes, Prabhu. Well, you know, I was away from ISKCON for a long time. And
welcome back.
I came back, yeah, and again, the way as my dissolution with my ex-wife was happening, I prayed to the Lord, and actually I used to keep a diary, and I said, "Dear Lord Krishna, if you will be so kind, please send me a Vaishnava wife." And then I wrote wishful thinking. Well, lo and behold, 3 months later, I started attending it's called CODA, called 12-step codependency program, where people who are going through divorces and so on, meet and have discussions regarding problems with their exes and so on. Anyway, but coming back to ISKCON, in sort of, it was a gradual process, because at the time my current wife was a Kundalini. She's a psychologist, but she teaches Kundalini on the side. She's a certified teacher, and the point that I'm getting is that I've been having a really hard time wearing dhotis and tilak. I didn't do that for many years, and I just don't feel comfortable in a dhoti, and my wife doesn't feel comfortable in a sari.
Well, let me respond to
but
that.
the Indian community looks down on that. I mean, they not everyone, like Vijay, he looks at your heart and your intention, whereas others are not so kind, and they let you know that you're
Well,
not.
let me
really-
respond to that very specifically. I have a whole collection of what Prabhupada said about dress. One, we have no idea what people dress like in the time in time of Krishna. We know a little bit, but very little detailed description is given. Dhotis is an ecclesiastical clothes. Prabhupada said many times, I don't care what you wear, just look chaste. He doesn't want women in mini skirts and men walking around in Speedos, but I want you to be chaste. And at one time, he said, when I was in Vrindavan wearing a suit and tie, that's what Prabhupada wanted me to wear. Other times, Prabhupada encouraged people to wear dhotis and saris because it gave a uniform to the Krishna movement. But all of that, according to Rupa Goswami, he says in the Nectar of Devotion that there are details and principles in devotional service. And the principle is to, as we say in the Old Testament, love the Lord with all thy heart and all thy might. The detail is what you wear while doing that. If somebody is a neophyte devotee, they typically get details and principles mixed up. So he considered very important is your tilak on straight, and not very important if you're loving God. So if you're dealing with neophytes, then you just have to understand they're a little bit neophyte because they don't know what's important and what's not. So then just tolerate. Krishna's given you an opportunity to tolerate because eventually they'll become advanced too. But right now they're very neophyte. I have no problem if somebody wants to wear a dhoti. I have no problem if somebody doesn't want to wear a dhoti. What really counts is where their heart's at. Personally, I was with Vaisheshika, some of you know him. He's a good friend of mine and a brilliant devotee. And so we were in a car ride together and he's wearing a dhoti. I said, do you always wear a dhoti? He says, yes, except when I go to China. But some people look good in the dhoti, which he does. And he said, some people should always wear a dhoti and some people should never wear a dhoti. I think he was talking about me because I could never quite get it to look right. So it depends on the circumstances. What really counts is what's in our heart, and that's what we're looking for. When Prabhupada met me, I was a high school teacher, but I lived in a very poor village. I didn't have any facility at all. Running water for maybe an hour a day if I was lucky. Electricity was kind of rare. I didn't have a mirror. I didn't have a comb. I didn't even know what I looked like. And when I met Prabhupada, he ignored my external appearance and saw I really wanted to know something. And therefore, he reciprocated with me and let me sit with him for 3 full days talking to him. I mean, it's a rare opportunity to sit with Prabhupada for 3 full days and just talk to him all day. I was very lucky. At the first Mayapur festival, there were 60 or 70 devotees. There was no buildings or just tents. Devotees just bought the land. So there was nothing. And I heard they were doing food relief for Bangladesh refugees. That was only a few months after the Bangladesh Independence War and the war with Pakistan of 71. So I heard they were feeding refugees. So I went up to help feed refugees. I didn't know what was going on there. And when I got there, I was the only guest at the first Gaur Purnima festival on ISKCON'S land in Mayapur. So Prabhupada was very kind to me and let me stay with him all day. I was lucky.
And Prabhuji, I was reading few days back, Srila Prabhupada talks about Swarup Damodar also. So
Yeah.
what a great personality he was, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he was treating, but he didn't accept sannyas. He was not using the sannyas dress, and he didn't add anything before his name. So not necessarily your outward appearance will tell what you are, as you said, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, this is really unfortunate. Somebody has
Yeah. I mean, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Bhaktisiddhanta spiritual master, dressed in rags and would chant by the latrine so no one would bother him.
Yes.
So outward appearance doesn't tell much about devotion. I've seen some people with their tilak is perfect, everything is perfect, except they criticize everyone.
Ultimately,
They're neophyte. And I've seen others who are very advanced, but you wouldn't know it until you speak to them. They're humble. I always try to associate with advanced devotees. For example, I speak almost every day to Hridaya Nanda Maharaj for 40 years. We work very closely together. I work closely with Radhanath Swami because I love his association. People like this, Indra Swami, they're people who really inspire me. So I try to get their association. So that's the way for advancing our spiritual life. We find people who inspire us, we serve them so we can get their association. That's the whole secret. There's nothing more to it. It's really simple. But Prabhupada said it's simple, but not easy, because our mind is so strong. Krishna asked Arjuna, is your mind that when Krishna explained to Arjuna what it's like to practice yoga, Arjuna said, but it's easier to control the wind than do this practice, because the mind is so impetuous. Who can control the wind? Like in Kentucky, there was just big hurricanes. No one a big tornado, no one can control the wind. So Arjuna says, it's easier to control the wind than control the mind. But Krishna says, with determination and perseverance, you could do it. And there are a lot of secrets of how to do it. And that's what the Gita is about. But the number one secret, Prabhupada said to me, the number one secret. Would you like to know the number one secret for controlling the mind? Number one, good association. And the number one secret for not controlling the mind is bad association. Prabhupada said to me, if you hang out with thieves, you become a thief. Just like right now, we send people to prison very easily. But once they're in prison, what do they learn? We don't train them in a skill. We don't reform them. All they do is learn how to be a better thief. And then when they get out of prison, they become better thieves. Now in Portugal, they said, this is stupid. This is stupid. So they started training the prisoners and letting them out real early. So they cut the prison population by 1/3. And they tried to reform the people. The crime dropped by 50%. So there's fewer people in prison and the crime dropped, because they try to reform people and give them good association. But if they put them in jail and you have no training, no anything, just be part of a gang, people, when they enter jail, they may not teenagers, they may not be in a gang, but when they leave, they must be in a gang. So this is the principle of association. So the whole reason Prabhupada formed ISKCON was to give us good association. That's number one. I'll tell you what number two is. Good association. And number three, they're all good association. After that, everything's a detail. If you have good association, it all works. So every day I listen to classes. Now, because of Zoom, I can choose what I want. So I listen to classes that inspire me. Sometimes I'll be frank, there's some classes that bore me and I'm too old and cranky to listen. But there's so many classes that inspire me, so I listen all the time.
Prabhuji,
So-
shall we go to next question?
And yeah, any other questions? Because it's past 9 o'clock, so I don't want to go
Yeah,
too
it will be
late
getting
here.
late. Yeah. So anybody has any question, please come forward. Neha Mataji, you have anything, please come forward and ask. Or anybody, Sushil Prabhu, Satyavan, please feel free to ask. Or Vansi Prabhu, Chaitanya Prabhu. I need not have to call by name. Please feel free to ask if you have anything. It would be very helpful, Prabhuji, the way Prabhuji is explaining. You know, if you open your heart, if you have anything within you are not getting answer, this is the right time. So
It's late. People may be tired. I understand that. That happens. Well, I put in the chat my email address if somebody needs to reach me. I'm putting in the chat the web page for the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and I'm put in the chat the newsletter for the Institute, which you can download right from the chat by clicking on.
yeah.
And any questions, you can always write me. I'm very pleased to have met all of you. I wish you all good fortune in these crazy times. And may all your wishes come true. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji, so much for your time and above all your association and good advice. And definitely it will help us to become a better devotee. A lot of key points were shared. So hopefully devotees have taken note of. And so in this difficult world, we have to survive. So we have to have association, chanting, as Prabhuji told, and many other things also. So with this, Prabhuji, we really appreciate your time, and from bottom of our heart, we just thank you so much for today's class. Hopefully, we expect we will have some more association in future. And with this, I request devotees to unmute and say 3 big Hari Bol for Prabhuji for his health. And,
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
6 Hari balls.
Thank you, Prabhuji, so much.
Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.